Welcome to the Aegance Offscript Podcast, where we talk to industry leaders who share their stories, insights, and lessons unfiltered and unscripted. I'm your host, Lawrence, and today I'm joined by Khaled Ismail, CEO and partner of ToughLove Advisors. Now, Khaled leads a modern consulting and advisory firm that's doing something different. So they're blending strategy, branding, cultural intelligence, and hands-on implementation across the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and beyond. Since launching in 2021, ToughLove has expanded into new markets, refined services like interim leadership and go-to-market execution, and they embrace a no-fluff, high accountability ethos in consulting. Khaled, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lawrence, for having me. And it's great to be with you on these wonderful podcasts, let's call them now.
Amazing. Would you mind, for the sake of the viewers and the listeners, providing a bit more context around ToughLove beyond the positioning that I've already let them know?
Thank you for the introduction. Yes, ToughLove, as the name suggests, is an advisory that tells our clients what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And that's obviously the differentiator for us. The context is a lot of the partners that have been on board with us have come from corporate jobs for over 25 to 30 years. Yours truly, I've been around for 35 years in the corporate world and decided it's time to kind of give back from the experience that we have had and bring some real life experience to some of these challenges. And I say that because when we were on the other side, the experience was less than optimal when someone comes in not understanding your business and never been in your position before, trying to tell you how to do your business. Whilst an outside independent view is always welcome, we bring that too. But just the fact that I've been there or any of our partners have been there, and as well as advisors that we bring on board, not any of them that we have worked with have been in the traditional consultant space, just to make sure that we're true to the differentiating factor that we bring to the table.
And how do you see your role as the CEO evolving, and what vision are you chasing for ToughLove in the next 3 to 5 years?
You know, the concept is something that we don't take it as a name. The name, obviously, it's more it's a philosophy for us. And we tell as I mentioned, our clients the truth, even if it stings. And I continue to kind of be the custodian of that philosophy. And my job has always been, when you're dealing with a small organization, to be the guy that does the coffee all the way to the board conversations that we have and everything in between. And I don't think that's going to change until one day we become a big player. And of course, the conversation changes. But at this stage, we are true to what we started, being some an organization that basically brings value and impact to the challenges our customers have. My role is, really is evolving from doing marketing, comms, strategy, and of course, redefining what marketing means to leaders. As we know, marketing, which is an area that we focus on, has changed over the past 5, 7, 8 years. You don't recognize what marketing is, especially with all the technology that's brought on board. What I would say is my continued role is to bring clarity to the company. We help founders and CMOs, of course, that we work with, cut through the noise and the politics, and there's plenty of it in organizations, and the PowerPoints that are plenty of them as well, to make decisions that actually make an impact. Everyone has a strategy until they meet reality, and that's when you need some tough love.
And how do you manage to balance being a doer versus being a strategist?
It's not easy, but it's part of the role. You have to be able to park certain ways of doing things at times of the day. Let's say you start your day with the strategy aspect of things and reflecting on where do we need to focus, both internally and with our clients. But then one other part of the day is when you say, right, here's rolling up our sleeve and digging into specific projects with advisors or with clients directly as the need is required.
And what has been one of the biggest tensions that you've had to wrestle with as TLA has grown?
The tensions are with any growing company. You have to know where your niche is, what is really your differentiator. And I look at it because I've done some startups in the past myself. You create a minimum viable product. This is what we offer. And then you want to see if you have a proof of concept. Am I actually bringing that differentiator, that value to our consumer and customers in this case? And then you have to scale that. And that's really the challenge, is how to evolve it and make sure that we started with a bouquet of different offerings. And we said, you know what? I think we need to bring it down to those three things. We call them the three pillars. One of them is new and evolving, is technology and AI. Not that I'm a techie myself, but I know that without technology, we're living in the past, and that's not really how we want to run our business. And yes, it's moving fast, so we're trying to keep track of that. That is a challenge. What is our offering in the world of tech when it comes to some of these challenges? And of course, innovation. What do we innovate? Are we bringing the right innovations to the table? I think that the philosophy for us is to kind of tackle that is we don't necessarily pitch. We ask questions and we provoke. That is what we would like to continue to do to overcome the challenges that we see, because that's at the core of what we offer.
Got you. And when you look at the firm today, I mean, beyond your philosophy of telling your clients what they need to hear rather than what they want to hear, beyond that, what's a core identity or principle that you would like to stress and get across? What do you want people to associate TLA with?
I think the word is co-creation. I will never know your business like you do. And like I said in the earlier part of our discussion, is that we come in as an independent party. We can see things that you may or may not see as a client. And sometimes you see it, you just kind of put the blind eye for it for political reasons within the organization. We kind of shed the light on those blind spots that are actually keeping you from growing as an organization. So with the three stages that we have done, and from the very beginning, is that, of course, the discovery stage. Like any organization, we need to understand, are we tackling the right challenges? And do we agree that these are the challenges that you wish to? Because usually they say, what are your priority lists? I will never work with a priority list of 15 priorities. That is not a priority list. We bring them down to 3 or 4 areas that we need to focus on. And the real differentiator, to answer your question, is co-creation. We make sure that we bring in a lot of people within the organization to pitch in to what areas we need to tackle to close the gap on things that we have commonly identified. And one of the surprising thing is 90% of the time, the solution sits with them. And it's with some of those colleagues that have been talking about that solution, but no one's heard them before. So you say, you know what? That makes sense. Why don't we bring it to the table and make sure that everyone else is no longer Mr. X or Mrs. X saying it. It's that person who agrees this is a challenge to it. And when everyone pitches in, magic happens, because now it's no longer not invented here syndrome. We're now all contributing towards something that independently has been validated to be a challenge. So that's what our differentiator is sitting and co-creating the solution. It could be through a workshop of a day, half a day, 2 days, depending on the challenge. And then we come to the kitchen and we present it in a way that's digestible and actionable. And lastly, not that we're there for the execution. We're not going to be able to execute those 5, 7 initiatives that we come back with. We may highlight and say, look, we can do actually the top two because that's what we do. But the rest, we can either help you find the right partner to come and bring that implementation with you. We can supervise it. We can work with them. But the idea is we stop at the co-creation and the strategy for the solution. Should there be a continuation of work, we will be delighted.
Yeah, co-creation. I mean, I love the concept. It's certainly, an approach that we maybe haven't termed co-creation, but something that drives us internally here at Aegance as well. I'm quite interested to understand from you, Khaled, is there a bold or perhaps a non-obvious strategic shift that you've driven at TLA that's surprised you?
Not anything that would be surprising to me to kind of reveal right now, because obviously a lot of stuff you see coming, you reflect on it, and you make a choice. Do I want to go down this route or not? And like I said before, we started with a wider array of services, and we kind of brought them down and reflected. Should we be a focused go-to organization, or should we be a jack of all trades kind of organization where you'd come in and say, I have problems? Well, no, we will not be able to help you with anything operational. Of course, we will not help you with anything, related to finance or due diligence part. We look at from a branding point of view, from a marketing point of view, positioning of the company, as well as a strategy of expansion or a strategy of product portfolio point of view. Because significant part of the time we see that you have the 80-20 rule, 80% of your revenues coming from 2 or 3 cash cow products. And then you have an array of products or services that are not generating revenue. And that's when we start looking at, is there an opportunity for us to, delist certain things? And the sacred cow conversation comes in. Oh, no, we can't do that. Well, you're bleeding here. That's not what you're generating. And you are now diversifying in the wrong way. That sort of conversation is obvious, as you can appreciate, coming where you're doing as well. But we kind of stress on the areas that we feel are important for you to kind of overcome the barrier for growth or wherever it is that you're offering. So back to your question, I think it's important to say that the surprise was that we've kind of brought it down to a very specific area, and we are good at it. So we continue to bring value and impact. And if we don't, I feel awkward. I feel bad, because why did you hire me and I couldn't solve your problem?
And are there any internal systems or processes that you've built or maybe refined that you're particularly proud of? Perhaps something that's allowed you to scale without quality slipping?
I think being a small organization, it's important to be creative. And I think creativity needs discipline. So we are almost always trying to make sure that there's discipline in that process. Like I mentioned, we have a modular system, lean core team that works on any projects with expertise that's required for that job. Our model is built like, I call it a jazz band, structured improvisation of things as we move along. Like the rhythm is the process, but you allow for some creativity along the way. And the type of systems that we've done is the fine-tuning the co-creation process itself, because it allows us to get the best out of people when we are having these conversations without one stepping on people's toes, because there's lots of egos in politics. So before you go into a workshop, the real work happens before, just making sure each one's agenda is going to be addressed in the right, proper way, without favoring anyone or anything in the process, but also at the same time making sure that we're focused with that jazz band that we bring to the table.
And I'd imagine with you being a smaller, agile team, embedding that into your culture and your processes probably wasn't much of a challenge.
Well, it was, until we identified it to be our niche and differentiator, and we didn't really have that process in the beginning. Like I said, we're not a 50-year-old organization with the big five that have books on processes of how to consult with agencies. We just used a lot of common sense and made processes out of them. And through various interactions with projects and clients, we refined them. And that's really where we are. Will we stop refining them? Absolutely not.
And how do you currently source new clients, and how has that evolved since you first started?
A lot of our colleagues that have been part of the advisory have come from big names. So they had their own black books to start with. And of course, you knock on the various contacts that you have who trust you and know you and have known you for many years. And that was the beginning of making sure that there is a revenue source for us to be able to work with. But as we now continue to grow and source new clients, I think we've identified that we don't, like I said, we don't pitch. We make sure that we have the right context, we ask the right questions, and most of our clients come through conversations. You have a conversation with someone, of course, the RFPs will come after the conversation, but we don't necessarily chase RFPs. We're not that kind of organization. We don't have a team that's chasing every RFP that comes out. We also tell them in the beginning, we're not going to be your yes men. If you're looking for that, this is not, we're not that kind of company. We want to come in and really provoke the conversation and walk away with some tangible impact. So our sourcing has been through our contacts in the industry. After 4 years, people don't know the name. They come to us to kind of get an idea of what we can bring to the table. But to answer your question, Lawrence, I think it's more about these conversations that we have. And hopefully we impress them from the first time we meet and ask the right questions for them to say, you know what, why don't I bring you on board as one of the companies, or this is not worth a pitch. Come and do A, B, and C for us, and then we're gonna get started. And I believe in the concept of give to get. So in the beginning, we come in and we don't go through the whole process of how much time and quotes and all that stuff. What do you want done? We'll do it. Let's do it and get some impact and get through the corridors and meet the right people. And then when you see impact, then a project evolves, and then we have something that we can work with. So and you know what? We can do that. We don't have quotas to meet. We don't have shareholders to attend to. We can do that. It's that nimble approach that I enjoy and I love about our company.
Sure. And what role does content, thought leadership posts and an online presence play in starting the conversations that you've mentioned?
Funny you mentioned that. Every time I make a post, I get people, and I'm using LinkedIn, of course, as one of those social media. I get people poking, saying, look, out of sight, out of mind. Well, you're in sight. I've now remembered you, and I know we've had a conversation earlier on, and then the conversation starts. It is about thought leadership. It's about various things that talk about go-to-market, the various cultural differences between markets. We come from global organizations, and we knew what the Chinese market or the Japanese market or the Middle Eastern market or the Latin American market requires differently from that global brand. Act local, think global, or the other way around. Which one do you want to actually come to market with? That conversation is also is important for us when we're looking at how we can help our clients. So that's really the essence of what we do or bring to the table.
And what would you say the toughest conversion challenge is that you face when engaging with the prospect?
I'm an action-oriented person. Therefore, I get a little bit frustrated with the conversion from discussion to an actual project. And like I said, we try to ease that process by offering certain things at pro bono, let's say, just let's get started with something. But the conversion, and I found that out because you're actually going under the hood of some company. You're basically taking their clothes off. So are they ready to have that conversation? So the person you speak to may be ready, but then the other two or three other stakeholders saying, you know what, maybe we don't need this right now. So there's a couple of stumbling blocks. You have to overcome them by having conversations with them if given the opportunity. But the conversion is really the biggest, let's say, frustrating aspect, but that's the nature of the beast. That's all I can say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've already alluded to, a bit of pro bono work up front to try and prove value essentially. So you're obviously taking an innovative approach in your sales process, which is great. I mean, partnerships can also accelerate your reach. Have you evaluated the potential of forming partnerships?
I think we need to prove ourselves to start with, and I think we have now. And the conversation is ripe to have partnerships. Because partnership will only make us bigger and stronger. Like I said, we're a small organization, boutique type approach. Can we benefit from someone who has the bigger client base and the processes in place? Absolutely. So the conversation is happening, and we're open for any alliances or collaboration or partnership with a company that wants to come into this part of the world, and they just want something that's semi-cooked, and that's where we are.
And what parts of Tough Love right now, Khaled, would you say are working really well?
Our brand, our name in the market, and I believe in reputation. Our reputation has been pretty strong, and maintaining it and delivering on our promises. I think that's something that we should be proud of. As well as making sure that every project that ends, regardless of how much more time or less time that's required to deliver on the project, because the estimation aspect is estimation. So when you go in, you estimate certain things. So we don't start counting hours by the time we want to deliver something good. So that's where I think the value comes in for Tough Love right now.
And where do you find, or what do you find most frustrating or draining in the business today?
It's not really frustrating. It's basically scratching your head. How do you bring innovation that's not gimmicky into the everyday world of marketing and strategy and business? Of course, if you're in production, if you're in performance marketing, there's lots of tools out there. And these tools are proven. And if you don't have them, the CRMs and the Salesforce and these are tools that are AI empowered right now, whether on the production line or dealing with your clients and their personalization. So from that point of view, I think there are specialists. We know that it is needed. Can we do it? That's not our specialty. I think for us is to make sure that how can I make sure that whilst automation and robotics are being brought in, AI and others, we remain human. We remain the people that tell the story, because that's what people buy. They buy a brand. A brand is actually a story. And we want to kind of amplify that and make sure that we deliver on that human aspect. But can we integrate technology into this so we can make our work and their work faster, easier, and more efficient? So that's really when we talk about some of these big conferences that are happening in town, as we talked about earlier. That's where you can pick up some nuggets of how can I bring in that innovation into a process that traditionally has never had any innovation in it, and make it more efficient and make sure that there's value in that process. There are many things that we have seen come in and almost like a trend or a fad, and then it kind of drops out. And the idea is how we can maintain technology and bring it into the marketing and strategy work. A lot of companies are thinking about, because we've done a research and I've read a lot about that, are thinking about integrating AI into their space in their management and marketing space. Only 25% have actually done it. The rest are either thinking about it, don't know where to start, or some of them are saying, look, that's not, they probably need a jolt at one point to kind of bring it on board. And I kind of reflect a little bit on COVID. A lot of companies didn't know what e-commerce was. They had a website and they just dealt with it, unless you're an e-commerce company. Whereas COVID kind of fast-tracked all of that for people, saying if you're not doing the e-commerce aspect, you don't exist anymore because people want to be able to do things online. And I think the same thing with technology and AI. There will be a jolt and a need within the next, we're not talking 5 years, we're talking literally 18 months to 2 years max, where there will be tools that are needed and must have in organizations with the right transformation process, because you can't just throw it at them, to be able to kind of integrate technology into our everyday lives.
That 75% missed uptake, is that a gap that you are looking to fill at ToughLove?
We absolutely. That's why we are looking at ways of integrating AI in a communication aspect. And we know a lot of leaders that are not very camera happy, for example, or they're not very comfortable. We allow them to use the avatars. Some of them are integrated avatars where you and I could be having a conversation, and it's actually your avatar that's having a conversation with me. Because with the large language models, you're feeding it with all the information that Aegance and Laurence should have. Then you're able to have that conversation. So a lot of people see that as value, and obviously integrating the comms aspect of it in using some of these tools in what we bring. And yes, the 75% is those opportunity ground for us.
I mean, I'm all for, firms adopting more tech and tech being deployed to not only streamline internal workflows and, save time and money internally, but also to provide a much better service for a customer base. I think the risk with that is commoditization. How would you safeguard ToughLove's human edge as you start to scale and take more tech and tools on board?
I think we will have to cross toll gates as we go along, because right now we haven't reached the point where the human element of our company is being compromised. The minute we see that, and by the way, a lot of these big companies have now started replacing people, the analysis and the research through AI. We can still do that, but the human aspect, because we are small and we are relationship based, we're able to kind of continue the human aspect of things using some of the technologies that enable us to do our work more efficiently. When that happens, when the offering is no longer delivering on the philosophy, because AI or technology is interfering, we will have to stop and question, is it worth it? Because if it's worth it, then a conversation needs to be had. Right now, we haven't reached that point.
And are there any additional macro trends, things like economic shifts, regulations, that have an influence on how you position or pivot your services?
It's an old age one. I mean, a lot of economies around the world are based on SMEs. And you'll be surprised how much some of these SMEs are in need of help, because one, they don't want to spend the $1 million or $2 million to come and do a project to identify some of these gaps that they have for them to grow, because family businesses, family-owned companies. Some of these family-owned companies, you have generational changes, and some of these people saying, look, my dad, who's created this wonderful company, now I'm taking it over. I need a new set of eyes to help me look at how do I grow it. Some of the SMEs you have, when I say SME, I'm talking about $100 million turnover, but that's small in comparison to the billion-dollar companies out there. And these companies need help. And they shy away because, one, they are not listened to by the bigger companies because they're probably a small piece of business for them. And two, the language is very much jargon. They don't understand that language. For me, I'm not anti-theory, to be honest. I'm just allergic to jargon. And the idea is, how can I speak to these organizations in their language? And their language is what I've done for 35 years. What is the bottom line? What do you want to do next? What do you want to leave as a legacy? And can we dig into that? Versus, the numerical line item things that are very important, but some of these SMEs are not interested in that. So this is an emerging thing that I think for us as a company is something that we need to continue to tackle and work with and identify. Look, because we come from multinational companies, we do have a couple of multinational clients, but the majority of them are actually small, local, regional clients that would benefit from our help and not our big invoices.
And Khaled, over the next 12 to 24 months, what are some of the major bets or moves that you are placing for ToughLove?
I think we've touched on it, a collaboration with another bigger player to kind of take us from the shop approach to a slightly bigger, let's say, mini market, not a supermarket yet. And two, expansion into various other neighboring countries where the need is there. And the need comes from, there's a lot of people who are exiting their corporate life after 25 years, 30 years. They're not looking for the next paycheck per se. So they are available as advisors and or partners. And these people are the kind of people we want to bring on board in the other markets that we kind of look into to expand what the philosophy of ToughLove is. So that's really our DNA, is we're not looking at it from just an expansion per se, but looking at the need in the market and the resources available. And we know that these resources are available, and some of them will raise their hands saying, look, I want to be part of this, and I'm happy to offer my services, but also my time to help companies because I can, and I can do it at my own pace. So that's the differentiator as well for us.
And what would success look like for you for those bets?
We partner with a company that brings in a bit of discipline and processes for the expansion that we're looking at. Expand more effectively into one or two other regional markets. We are today in Saudi and the UAE. I think there are some other markets around us from Oman, Bahrain, Qatar, as well as Egypt and Jordan and Lebanon and Palestine and other areas that we can get involved in. And for us to be able to kind of be the company that we created for that purpose. Again, I say the reason the word advisors are there is not consultants is because we don't want to be offering the same thing. We can't compete. It's simple. We simply cannot compete. We're bringing that differentiated approach to the table.
And if we look beyond ToughLove Advisors, how do you see the advisory space evolving in your region and globally and into the future?
I have read enough to tell me that the traditional consultancy world is going to evolve very, very fast, just like the good old advertising company world. Advertising companies used to obviously be through the line, everything under the roof, creative, and you have the execution and you have the strategy. Right now, it's fragmented into social media and events and PR and the idea of some of these advertising companies evolving and changing. The same thing is going to happen with AI being brought in to do a lot of the thinking. Agentic AI, for example, which is something that I've kind of dug into, is actually going to be able to reason with you and challenge you. And if you have someone like that at a fraction of the cost, it's subscription cost, you're going to certainly have to change your model. And by the way, slowly I see some of the big names, shedding significant number of employees. So the question is, where will it end and what will the model look like? Do I have the crystal ball? Absolutely not. But I know it will have to change to cater to the needs of bringing in an independent outside eye on the business to be able to add value from someone who knows the business or at least have been in your shoes before, to be able to add the most value.
It certainly sounds like you're positioning ToughLove Advisors well to be comfortable in the future that you're describing. For our listeners and viewers that want to reach out to you, connect, where's the best place for them to do that?
Our name is tlapartners.com. So that's where we are. TLA is ToughLove Advisors Partners.com. And you can reach me, of course, on LinkedIn. I'm obviously available there. But yeah, happy to ask those provocative questions and have a conversation.
Well, Khaled, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast and giving us an inside look into ToughLove Advisors. Certainly we'll keep our eye on you and look forward to your expansion plans. And hopefully there's scope in the future for a round 2 podcast, but we can lock that in at a later stage. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.